chatting a bit when we'll get started here. So we've got a PowerPoint, but as we're just explaining the kind of one of the bigger goals in general is just to get a chance to all sit down together and have chances to talk. If you have any nagging questions about how this should go or that should go, to get those out, or just building a little bit more of a relationship, so that as things are going along, you have a question that pops up, you feel comfortable giving us a call, or not big scary folks someplace else. We're right here, and we can answer questions and walk you through stuff as things are happening with your members. So this is kind of the plan. We'll do some introductions, talk about the different programs we run here at Goodwill and that the Corporation for National and Community Service runs. Talk about roles and responsibilities that we all have in making this partnership work. Terms and conditions is more around policies and benefits that members have to follow, more benefits that they get, common member issues. An administrative overview is more the timesheets and reports and stuff like that. So we're kind of the staff for the Goodwill VISTA partnership. I'm the program manager. You guys are VISTA leaders. We run 3 other AmeriCorps programs at Goodwill. So, when you were at the CPI training thing, Jen was there. So Jen helps run our multilingual leadership core program, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a few minutes. And then Jolie on the left there, she and Jen work together to run the multilingual leadership core. But we also all work as a team. During recruitment season, we're trying to recruit between 80 and 100 AmeriCorps members, and there are many people who are interested in multiple of our programs. So we do a lot of stuff together to make that all flow smoothly. And then there's other crazy times during the year, and we all pitch in to make things happen. So it could very well be that you might hear from any of us if there's someone's out and something has to happen quickly. Any of us may hop in to communicate with folks, or if you have a crazy situation that pops up and one of us has dealt with that specific situation before, may very well be Jen or Jolie who gives you a call and say, hey, I can help with this. This is how we handled this before. So, and then Libby Height on the top right there. She's the Corporation for National and Community Service staff person that grants us the Goodwill VISTA partnerships. So she's our direct connection back to the Corporation for National Service. The corporation is the organization that pays all our VISTA members and VISTA leaders. So she's a great conduit. She's the one that has to approve everything. We essentially are broken up into program managers, program representatives, and VISTA leaders. This program doesn't have program representatives. That's another type of Goodwill staff person. We just have VISTA leaders. So myself as the program manager, I'm more responsible for kind of overall budget and compliance and performance. We all talk with Libby, but for some things I'm more around budget and grants negotiation stuff. I deal with Libby around those issues. We all kind of help create partnerships and collaborations, but I take the lead more often than not on those. And if there's things that are going crazy, then I get involved. And then these folks are primarily responsible for recruitment and member management. So they've each got a caseload of around half of the members. That way each member knows and you will know if you have a specific issue, which one of them you'd go to. Do you know who you each go to and if you have issues?
I have Nathan, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know who's talking.
And then Joel has Sheena.
Okay, good. It's good to know.
I did a lot of the dividing. That's why I kind of know.
This was like the recruitment head. So we had that conversation last week. He was like, which members do you want?
Yeah.
So.
And so besides that sort of caseload management piece. They're also one of the things we're going to start doing this year that we didn't do last year was have a monthly one-on-one call with each member. So with each of those members that are in their caseload, they're going to reach out to them. It doesn't have to be a long call, but just a time to make sure that if they have any issues or have any questions, they're on the phone with them. They can feel free to ask anything they want. Make sure that there's great communication between us. So that way also if we have anything that's coming up, be sure to remind folks, don't forget, training's coming up on such and such a day. Don't forget, your report's due such and such a time. All those things are very clear all the time with folks, hopefully, with this method. All right. So, all right. So, next bit, we're going to talk about the Corporation for National and Community Service, and then some of our programs that are funded through the Corporation for National and Community Service. It's a Corporation for National and Community Service is a federal agency. It's the parent of AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps VISTA. It's also parent of Senior Corps, which has programs like the Retired Senior Volunteer Program or Foster Grandparents or Senior Companions. Those are sort of the other arrows off of this. But the programs we run that are funded through the Corporation for National and Community Service are the Goodwill VISTA Partnership, Goodwill Multilingual Leadership Corps, the Grand State Education Corps, and we actually also run a program called Take Two, which is working with youth offenders primarily. So the way the funding happens is the Corporation for National and Community Service, through its VISTA program or AmeriCorps State and National program, looks for partner agencies that have a good idea of what the community issues are in their region and partners, and then a good grasp of how to help address those issues utilizing stipended volunteers. So that how they ask usually takes the form of a grant competition. So we regularly put in grant proposals to fund our AmeriCorps programs sometimes directly through AmeriCorps State and National, but often through these intermediary offices. In Maine, it's the Maine Commission for Community Service. In New Hampshire, it's Volunteer New Hampshire. And with the VISTA programs, there's a state office based in Concord, New Hampshire, that oversees Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. So earlier I pointed out Libby Height, who's our contact person. She works out of the Concord office of the Corporation for National and Community Service. So we are part of Goodwill Industries of Northern New England. Our Goodwill serves Maine, New Hampshire, and Northern Vermont. About 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, we hired a new executive director. Her name's Anna Eleanor Roosevelt. She's the granddaughter of FDR and is very passionate about trying to lift people up out of poverty. She's also very supportive of our programs. She really sees the value of sort of empowering the community to take on its own issues. So by utilizing stipended volunteers and partner agencies to try to do as much of that work as possible. So she appreciates that model. She's really been setting some big goals for our organization, as is outlined on the top there. The leadership would really like to see Goodwill help lift 10,000 households out of poverty within the next 10 years. So the Goodwill VISTA partnership being focused very much on trying to support people to get out of poverty fits well within the larger vision of Goodwill. And then some of these other bullets really talks about how trying to honor other organizations and other people's models for helping to do that. So the Goodwill VISTA partnership fits well within that concept, by really looking to you all as partners with good ideas to how to try to help people. We're really working through you all to make this happen. The partnerships have been fabulous so far. The Multilingual Leadership Corps is one of our AmeriCorps programs where Jen and Jolie support and lead. It's a 15-member program primarily serving English language learning youth in Greater Portland and Greater Lewiston, Auburn. It's primarily a mentoring program. All of those AmeriCorps members have a caseload of primarily refugee and immigrant youth who are in the public schools. and helping them understand what it takes to succeed in school and provide some of that kind of that crosswalk. It was very different where they had been living compared to here. So trying to figure out what the standard, what the expectations are, and what they need to do, and where they really should kind of help them envision themselves, 5 years down the future. Do they want to go to college? What do they want to have for a career? How are they going to get there? The Grant State Education Corps is in New Hampshire, based out of our office in Concord. It's again a mentoring program for youth, but instead of being focused on refugee and immigrant kids, it's much more focused on low-income kids, where schools have a high percentage of low-income kids, or kids who go to schools that have been labeled failing by the Department of Education. Take Two is the program I was talking about a minute ago, where the primary target audience of that program are kids who've been in trouble with the law. Kids is a little bit of an exaggeration. They're 17 to 24-year-olds. And the program, those 45 the mentee members are the 17 to 24-year-olds. They are the ones who've been in trouble with the law, and there'll be in like a 16-week program, and every other week, 1 week is getting their GED or high set, and the next week is gaining some construction skills. So it's like in the classroom, practical skills, in the classroom, practical skills. Hopefully by the end of the 15, 16-week program, they've got some skills that will allow them to be employable, or at least get started in a job. All of our AmeriCorps staff are former AmeriCorps members. We really see the importance of giving members an opportunity to do something really valuable as a method of growth. That it's been powerful for all of us to have an opportunity to really make a strong community impact. So keeping a good balance between supporting them in developing so they can do that work, giving them valuable things to do, and then making sure that the work that they're going to do will continue on after they're done. So it's all of those things are important in making this a great experience for the member, and the more it's a great experience for the member, the more success that you all are going to have in your programs, getting the types of work you want to see done accomplished.
That's possible.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, sure. All right. So talk a little bit more about roles and responsibilities. I didn't go into a lot of depth around their roles because there's a couple more slides here about that. But so as an organization, our Goodwill AmeriCorps office is, wait, it's your turn.
But you were going.
I talked too much already.
This is what we do here. So grant management, secure grant funding through CNCS, program-wide reporting. Since it is kind of a federal program, we report on a lot of things, which you'll find out very soon. There's a lot of reporting. Ensure AmeriCorps VISTA and Goodwill compliance. Member management, so troubleshooting issues, if there's ever an issue with a member at their site or a site with a member, just trying to figure out how to resolve something here. Support enrollment and exit of members, site monitoring. With that, we'll do site visits throughout the year. Also, we just really like to get out of the office, so it's nothing really ever too bad. It's just we like to see what they're doing because the work they're doing is really cool, more interesting than being here. And also professional development and networking opportunities for members. We have a few trainings that we put training schedules in the folder, but we'll go through that a little bit later too. We assist members with member benefits, so the education award, navigating that process, travel reimbursement to all Goodwill trainings, and also think that says training, I'm sorry, that's far away. We do have a lot of trainings throughout the year. We try to have one at least once a month, just to, because so many people are spread out. It's not really an issue if you're in Portland, but we have members in Lubec, so we try to get members together at least once a month, either in Portland, Bangor, or somewhere else random, try to make it convenient and fun. So member and site support, so monthly one-on-one calls for members, professional development trainings for members. We're going to do webinars and in-person supervisor orientation, and we're going to hopefully have a spring event. I'm not sure what that's going to be yet. And also site visits and other troubleshooting. So the Corporation for National Community Service, their state office is in New Hampshire, so this is kind of what they work on, so reporting, ensure compliance with VISTA and CNCS policies, and communicating with the region of the Atlantic Cluster staff. Member management, so the state office actually has final approval of every single member that we select for our program. So everyone goes to the state office, and then they coordinate enrollment and exit of members with the VISTA member support unit. And also when there are significant issues, they step in. Member benefits, the stipend actually comes directly from the Corporation for National Community Service. So if there are ever any issues, there's a hotline number that members can call. So troubleshooting pay and benefit problems with the VISTA member support unit, and ensuring that members receive their educational or their end-of-year stipend when they exit the program. And also site visits and troubleshooting. Our state officer, Libby, she lives pretty locally, so she would like to come and visit more sites. Just because, again, it's great to see what you guys are doing. And also, they review the VADs and they have final approval on every single site and project.
Can I ask just a question, because it's come up in office because I'm new to this, just more curious around what potential issues have arisen, when you're significant issues,
Sure.
what that would look like that you would want, that either we would want support or they would want support, or just something that might come up in a...
Because we have between 80 and 100 AmeriCorps members serving every year, which means I've been running AmeriCorps programs for 20 years. Joey's been running them for 12. We've seen thousands of members and all the different possibilities of things going haywire.
Yeah.
So
I can give you a specific too.
what do you got?
Yeah.
The reason that we stopped doing those 3 years ago or whatever is we had someone who just really struggled to do a lot of work. And he didn't take it super seriously.
Okay.
And because there's a lot of paperwork and management, you have to get enough return to justify that, and he just sort of refused to help on projects and not follow through on things, and wasn't as much of a team player, so it's kind of a basic personnel kind of thing.
Okay.
And so from our perspective, there's what we find, over the years, there's there are, I'm going to say, our member issues break out probably 50%, 40% is just a lack of fit between the member and the site.
Got it, okay.
And then 60% is more like that, where there's just, in the screening process, it's just hard to tell, exactly how well a member is going to do.
Yeah.
And then, but there is a large percent where it's just not a good fit sometimes.
Yeah.
So, this year, we had out of 40 members, we had 2 where it wasn't a good fit with the site. And so we just found them in another place, a place where the requirements for them were the types of things that were more their strength than the place where they had originally been located. So then, the other things that go wacky, we had one member who's actually ended up with a crazy tumor and had to go home for surgery, and then after that, she just decided not to continue. So there's medical issues that happen, but less frequently than other types of issues. But let's see, what are some other things over there? So those were our 3 members who left this year. Those were the 2 were non-fit. 1 was a member with medical issue.
So when it's not a right fit or someone leaves, how does that play into the host sites like financial?
Oh yeah, you get there's a slide later on, but you get a prorated share.
Okay.
If they leave halfway through, you get half back minus admin fee. It's like a $1,200 admin fee.
And if they don't want to leave, but they're just not doing their job or showing up in that way, how does that?
So that we will then work with you to figure out how you want to handle it. We can just, ask them to leave. We can ask them to leave your site and find another place for them. That's what we chose to do mostly this year.
Yeah.
If they just do, we've definitely had people do bad things. We're like, sorry, you're out of here.
Yeah.
And that's instantaneous.
Yeah.
But most often, when these types of things happen, we have a conversation with the site, try to figure out if there's a possibility that we can give them some type of a meeting. Here's what here's what we're all observing. Can you stop doing this type of behavior and this type of behavior and do these things, and within the next month we can get to where we all want to be. So give them sort of a month to change their behavior, and often that type of thing will work. But sometimes we decide right away, we're not really going to change this part about them. This is a personality thing. This isn't a behavior thing. This is a personality thing. We just would like to find a new place for them.
Okay.
Those are some of the
that's helpful.
types of issues that go on. But as I said, that's with 80 to 100 members.
Right.
Those kinds of things happen. It's a low percentage, but at the same time,
People are people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's helpful.
Yep. All right.
I'm sure that the host sites always have some responsibility, or almost always have some responsibility in everything too.
There can be.
I'm sure we could.
It's a percentage. It's a percentage of the times. It's not always, for sure.
So, are you going?
No, you go.
Okay, great. So the host sites, partnership responsibility, so just supporting the Goodwill VISTA partnership, confidentiality, ensuring that your VISTA member understands the confidentiality of your organization, but also respecting their confidentiality at the same time. And then communication, communicating with us if anything arises or if you need clarification on something, and also communicating with your member too.
The confidentiality piece, anything beyond an ordinary, if you're working with a population that has sensitive, we're not really an organization that does anything with confidentiality normally, because we don't.
What we mostly recommend is that you have an in-depth conversation with your member about any confidentiality requirements that you might have at your organization.
So it's not site-based, there's no.
Yeah, and then, because we definitely have members who are placed at schools and might know, particularly with our direct service programs, like the Multilingual Leadership Corps, they've got a caseload of kids who they know a lot about. And if, they go home and chat with their brother or their spouse about some kid and they use their name, and then their brother or their spouse mentions that in the community and it gets back to them, it's horrible. So it's mostly around that stuff. But we'd also ask that if you have any issues with your member, don't shout it around. Let us know and we'll try to work it out, as opposed to it getting out in the community as well.
So host site logistical responsibilities. So the host site contract, it's just important to adhere to the contract and the implications of non-compliance. Reporting, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of reporting. We have weekly timesheets, monthly reports. There'll be a mid-year evaluation and end-of-year evaluation. and then also performance measurements in the VAD. Travel, if you're asking your VISTA member to travel to different sites, just reimbursing them for travel as you would a regular employee of your organization. We'll reimburse them for all travel to Goodwill required trainings, but if you're requiring them to drive, I don't know, to Augusta for something, just reimburse them for that travel. Volunteer screening, if your member is working with volunteers, recruiting volunteers, the site is responsible for volunteer screening, and then also the workspace, ensuring that your VISTA member has all the materials they need to effectively complete their assignment, so computer, internet, if they need an email address, a phone, and then office supplies as well. So post-site supervision and support responsibilities. So in recruitment, I guess we've been through that recruitment process, but obviously the interview is a requirement as well as 2 references. We actually cannot move forward with an applicant until we have 2 references from them. Supervision. So this part is going to be a little tricky. So we ask every member to get fingerprinted, and then we have CNCS run an FBI background check on them. So if your VISTA member is going to be working with vulnerable populations, so youth, people with disabilities, or senior citizens, they just need direct supervision until their FBI background check comes back. So that doesn't have to be you, but just someone else at your organization. So if Ethan is in a classroom, just making sure there's always a teacher there or someone else there.
When does the check come back?
It usually, so they haven't all sent in fingerprints yet, so we're kind of still waiting on that. We're following up with that, but it should take about a month after we send them out, and we'll let the VISTA members know when it comes back. We also just ask that you serve as a mentor to your member, maybe having weekly meetings, just figuring out how frequently you'll have to meet with them to support them in their project, and also just supporting their capacity building efforts at your organization. Orientation, we have a welcome member checklist in your folder, so just orient the member to your site, and just have a conversation with them about your goals for their role and their goals for the VISTA role. So you can maybe help them grow or develop skills throughout the year, and then also orient them to both the organization and the community they're serving in.
Yeah, the welcome member checklist, which is a great tool because it sort of makes sure you don't forget some of the common sense things that you would want to go over with a new staff person or a new volunteer at your organization. I regularly, with these guys, regularly forget that there's this, there's a toaster in the whatever. There's the board meets, every so often. There's these parts of our organization that you might not know about. So it kind of gives you a walkthrough. I think it's over about a month. It's like do this the first week, do this next week. Just things to go over about your organization.
Okay. So the VISTA leader roles, so me, I do year-round member management, I do a lot of recruitment and training coordination, which is probably why you heard a lot from me this summer, and also performs a needs assessment for future trainings we may need.
And you'll probably be hearing more from me as the year goes on. My responsibilities are reporting, communication, and trying to find stories, VISTA stories of the site to help share with CNCS to get the word out. That's the fun part of reporting. The less fun part are all the numbers, because although everything we receive, I put together in a report, we ship to CNCS biannually, so every 6 months. And Libby uses that into a cluster report in which she then reports directly to the government. That determines their funding, determines how many VISTAs we get and how much we're capable of doing, which I will be walking through that process with each member in depth once we get the initial member training event underway. I also do site visits. It doesn't necessarily mean it's just me. It's usually me, Steve, Elizabeth will probably be out on quite a bit. Like we said, it's usually just very basic compliance check, and then just we want to be there, hang out, and just see what's going on, not be stranded at our desks.
Yeah, I mean, one of the ways that we best gather stories to send to CNCS to keep our program funded, and to have them learning about it is through the site visits. So coming out and giving the member and you all a chance to share some of the good stuff that's been going on.
I think the next slide goes on to the types of information. Oh, not yet. So the member responsibilities. So every VISTA member is responsible for participating in the enrollment and exit paperwork. There's weekly timesheets they need to fill out, as well as the monthly reports. I send out reminders for both of those things. There's also evaluations, which will be in the form of surveys. Elizabeth's a survey fiend, but she makes them. They're really painless. It's usually 5-10 minutes at most. There's professional development opportunities, both through VISTA and opportunities that we build ourselves. One of the big benefits of this program and just the VISTA serving in such different respects is everyone has very different skills. So every time we have them together, we always make sure there's time for members to share their skills with each other. I mean, a bit of that happens organically through networking and just being together, but that was one of our most successful things in our last few trainings was member-led training. Another thing VISTAs are responsible for are to meet the goals and expectations. That is the work dictated in the performance measures on the VAD, as well as just abiding by the expectations and the compliance guidelines. And ultimately, everything has to be working towards building the site's capacity to reduce poverty. And then there's the communication piece, which is we're not at the site every day, so we hope that the members are open with communication to us. We'll definitely be speaking with you constantly as the year goes on, and just keeping open channels of communication so none of us are in the dark, and we're always on the same page.
Right.
So when it comes to...
That's what you're looking for, Mary?
That was what I was looking for. I might have swapped those slides accidentally this morning. But so the monthly reports covers the program performance measures, which are the 2 to 3 goals that are written on the VAD, as well as client and volunteer data. I can't remember off the top of my head. I've been going through so many VADs. I'm not sure if either of your VISTAs will be working with volunteer recruitment. Does that sound?
Maybe tangentially, but not super close.
So I won't bore you guys too much with that. So we've got the terms, conditions, and benefits. So the VISTAs will be receiving a living stipend and will be eligible for an education award upon completion of service. They're also eligible for loan forbearance and interest accrual payoff if they elect to put any of their federally qualifying loans in forbearance. There's the health benefits piece, which is a very basic medical reimbursement plan. Doesn't count as insurance itself, but it definitely helps with the costs should they need it. There's the relocation allowance, emergency leave and travel, and a federal equivalent to workers' comp. There's child care reimbursement if they're income eligible, as well as we're making, I think, 110% of the poverty limit, so all VISTAs are eligible for food stamps. And they are also able to have a second job or attend school so long as it doesn't interfere with their ability to serve at the site.
And you sort of have capability to say whether what they're thinking about for a second job does or doesn't interfere with the work that they're doing.
So the living stipend is $11,990 for the year, which breaks down into about $990 per month before tax. The education award is $5,775. If they decide they don't want the education award, they could elect for the $1,500 cash payout instead. We tell every member to choose the education award first, because as soon as they select that as their end of service award, that amount of money is then allocated to their account from the trust. And that's an easy, if they decide they want the cash instead of the ed award, that's just a one click and they can change it. But if they go for the cash first, the amount of money's already been allocated and they can't just find the additional $4,000 to put into their account.
So they won't allow it.
They will not allow the cash to the ed award.
The late return.
So the emergency leave, this is something that we learned a bit this last year, is should any emergency not necessarily just medical emergencies, but even like death in the family, anything that pops up during the year and the member can't serve, they need to go. CNCS, Libby told us, have the members contact us, we'll contact CNCS, and they will pay up front any travel costs and arrangements, just so it's less stress on the VISTA, helping it be more conducive for them to come back and finish their service. We had a member who had her grandfather died. She told us, we told Libby, and Libby's like, oh, tell her not to worry about it, cover the flight, got her out in time for the funeral, got her back the next week, and there is no disturbance really in her service. I think that's 1 to 5 days is their initial approval for those kind of things, but if it's serious, we can request up to 10 days, and anything more serious than that, I think it's, what was the term for that?
Suspend?
Is it suspension?
Yeah, so we can suspend their service, so if they're sick for about a month or 2 months or something happens, we can suspend their service for that time, so they wouldn't receive their stipend, and then after that period of time, they could come back and continue to serve, and then their end date would just be pushed back, basically, so they would continue with the year.
Other than that, there's also the 10 days of sick leave as well as 10 vacation days they can use throughout the year. Any use of that time needs to be documented on timesheets, and any processes for requesting vacation days is whatever you would do at your site. You would just share that information with the member, because all we really care about is that it's documented.
Does that include federal holidays or anything like that?
Federal holidays, it doesn't include, they get those days off.
Okay.
Which actually, that's a good point to bring up, because different sites, we had a few members working at a school department where they, of course, get like the full week of Thanksgiving off. In that situation, there's a form we have each member fill out so that if the office is closed for a full week, they only get the federal holiday. They have to figure out how to work for the other days that their office is closed, or they could just take their vacation time.
That's what I was going to ask, because I follow the school calendar, so even though he's going to be doing other stuff outside of the school, the office and myself is usually closed for like that public school, you know, the Thanksgiving and the Christmas holiday. Not the April and February, we do stay open. But is that something I talked to him about around him wanting to take the vacation then, and then we close 1 week in the summer? So like aligning it with that, or do I try to figure out him working while I'm off? Like what is that, how does that usually work?
Well, we'll go over the rules and regulations of that whole thing.
Okay.
That would be a discussion between you and Ethan.
Okay.
But I know for the most part, our last VISTA, who was in a school system, she just maintained her emails and kept contacting people, making sure there's work being done.
Okay.
But she couldn't get into her office, so she did it all from home.
Okay.
And then there's the relocation allowance and settling in reimbursement. And if you or the members have any questions about this stuff, like everything is documented in depth and posted on the VISTA campus, so it's www.vistacampus.gov. When they go to their PSO, that web address will be hammered into their like thousands of times. So the member position details is everything outlined on the volunteer assignment description and the posting. We just call it a VAD. It establishes the expected member activities for their term, as well as goals, objectives over the year. If anything happens where, let's say you find out your VISTA has a skill that isn't called for, but they're using it to reach their goals, we can actually tweak the VAD so that they get full credit for all work they do. Mm-hmm. Like I know in my position, I really like video editing and I have my equipment, so when I started, I asked Steve if we could make that relevant to my VAD. Mm. And throughout the year I've been doing that, and I'll get credit for that work as well as the other tasks I do. But had I said nothing and I just wanted to do that, there would really be no paper trail saying, oh, well, Joel did all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And
you can get so much more out of a VISTA member if you're able to, in the first couple months, really figure out what their strengths are, or if it's not one of the strengths they have now, one of the things they're really passionate about being good at in the future, mm-hmm. and they can really dig into it if they're so inclined, and that might be a huge boom for you because you could be so passionate about it.
And then I touched a little bit upon the VISTA's ability to work from home. There's the form they'll be filling out. It's called the teleservice agreement. And that allows them to work from home 2 days per pay period, so 2 days every 2 weeks. In the case of a school holiday or a week off, we would have to get approval from Libby at CNCS for them to work from home for a longer period of time, but so long as there's a demonstrated need or work for them to complete, it's not a problem. So when it comes to member activities, everything boils down into these 3 categories. There's the capacity building piece, the training piece, and the poverty reduction focus. Capacity building, since it's VISTA, has to be a majority of the members' time. Those percentages I need to update. It's actually, we were told by Libby, it needs to be 90 to 95%. And any service they do has to relate to the program as well as their specific goals and performance measures. And this is a bit irrelevant for VISTA, but there used to be some on-call AmeriCorps positions, and in that case of it being an on-call position, sleeping hours don't count towards service. Training, though it's not limited by rule, has to be minimal enough to allow for the member to complete their site-specific duties. And that breaks down, I think, to 5 to 10%. And any site-specific statewide or AmeriCorps trainings, workshops, or conferences, as well as our orientation, those kind of trainings. If it's a training such as showing them how to use their computer, their workstation, or just other tasks around the office, little things like that don't need to be counted as training. And ultimately, everything they do needs to be relating to the poverty reduction focus. That's all VISTAs, that's why they sign up for it. And we do suggest that if for new tasks, or even frequently occurring tasks, to just take time to review to make sure that requirement is still being met.
Prohibited member activities. So members cannot participate in any of these activities, and they also cannot recruit volunteers to perform any of these activities. So some of the big ones, especially in the political season, influencing legislation, engaging in partisan political activities, and conducting voter registration drives. Another prohibited member activity, what your VISTA will be working on cannot displace an employee or a volunteer at your organization.
Next slide. It's a long list. It's no fun going down.
So our communications policy, if you ever have a press release or media coverage that mentions the VISTA member, we'd really like to see it, share it with us. And then maybe we'd be able to share it through some Goodwill channels as well. Also, if you ever mention your VISTA member maybe in social media, on your website, just give mention to CNCS and Goodwill Industries of Northern New England. We actually will give the VISTA members a list of all these social media sites. So if you do ever share on Facebook or anything, they'll be able to tag the organizations too.
So we're running a little bit behind. So I think this was a conversation piece around collaborations. It's when we've got a big group, there's lots more opportunities for potential collaborations to be discussed. If we have time at the end and you guys want to talk about this, we can come back to it. Me?
Yeah, I'll cover it. So when it comes to disciplinary actions, main reasons for disciplinary actions would be any patterns of misconduct or undermining the program, as well as not fulfilling their obligations as dictated on their badges. Any disciplinary action must be documented and shared with us. We need to be involved in taking steps, and there also needs to be the chance for corrective action.
So money-wise, I think you all know it's $6,200 to have a member for the year through the Goodwill VISTA partnership. Those are the costs for having members through our other programs that are significantly more expensive, just based on primarily the size of the programs, but also VISTA is a little different, where we are primarily, we're partnering with all organizations who are focused on helping reduce poverty. Tends not to be a lot of money there. Although right now our other programs working in schools are suffering a lot right now as well. Have you all got contracts?
I do, and I signed it with the check-in. I'm supposed to bring it today, and it's like on my desk. I'm sitting up against that, like, right, that's all set to go.
I didn't bring mine either,
So I
but
can
I
bring
do.
it.
I think you sent it to me.
Okay, all right.
We have a little bit of an unusual situation in that we don't have an executive director right now.
Getting things signed.
I can
is
still-
a little complicated.
Take care of that.
And have a refund, and there is a refund prorated share. So like I said, if it's 50% of the time's up, you get 50% back minus the admin fee. And that 60%, if it's after 66%, you won't get any admin fee. That's mostly, you won't get any money back. That's mostly around the fact that by the time you get that part in, the admin fee eats up the end of it. And if it's early on in the year, we'll often try to replace the member and not get into any of that. We'll just, get rid of the person, try to recruit you somebody else's replacement, and just keep the same. Don't worry about the admin fee and all that stuff. Just keep the same financial commitment.
Okay.
The host site contracts and the forms to allow a member to have a second job. So this is the start of the second year when VISTA members are even allowed to have a second job.
Okay.
So this is all kind of new, and so far it seems to have worked relatively smoothly, but everyone's kind of paying close attention to that at this point.
So key
Either you
dates.
guys?
I can do key dates. So we kind of have waves of members coming in. So we have members start in July, and they can serve in for about a month. We had the early August start. And so Shima and Ethan are both late August starts, so they both went to PSO today. So the first official day will be August 27th. And then August 29th on Monday from 11 to 3, we have a half-day member orientation, which will be here that they'll have to attend. So we can kind of go through some of the stuff with them too.
For the member one you're working on, you might want to add the 9-12.
Oh yeah, that's true. Huh?
So we'll have everyone here Monday from 11 to 3 to just go through some of this with them. And then we'll have trainings throughout the year. So in the folder on the left side, the yellow sheet all the way in the back are required Goodwill trainings throughout the year. We've set the dates for our in-person training, but our first big training is member initial training, and that's September 19th through the 22nd, and that's the first time our whole group will be together. So it's a great opportunity for them to meet, collaborate, and also develop professional skills. And that'll be at Camp Susan Curtis, which is in Stoneham, which should be very nice and fun. We're going to do a ropes course and do some other training. So.
Let me know how it is up there. they've been harassing us to do something with them. I'm just like, it's too far away.
It is far. It's a beautiful location.
That's what
we were
they
there
say.
last year. It's a beautiful location. And the one nice thing about I can highly recommend staying overnight there because, number one, there's basically no cell coverage. So everyone is engaged with each other fully. So they can't escape on their phone. And then also, slightly different, but I was going to say, one of our big goals of our member trainings is to try to keep members connected enough that they will be less likely to leave the program. The more they have peer resources and feel connected to each other and see other people who are going through the same, they're living in poverty for the year, to give to the community, to your organizations, and the more that they can see each other doing that and see people struggling the same way they're struggling and have somebody to reach out to their peer members, to us, to you, the more likely we're going to be able to keep them on through the program year. So a lot of our trainings, because everyone's doing such different things, it's hard to have trainings that are specific enough to their professional development that everyone's going to benefit from it. So we look for opportunities that we can send individuals to those types of things, but when we get everyone together, the biggest goal is to try to create a strong group of participants who can rely on each other and hopefully therefore be able to stick with the program and have a maximum impact for you guys. So, as I was just saying, one of our main goals is to support members in seeing through their year-long commitment, and this is a relatively good picture of how that goes for people. The thing that I've experienced over the course of many years of doing this is that in Maine, the time when we lose most of our members is right at the start. So this early dip is true. But the biggest time is around January and February. It's just cold. There's not much light. People they've got some of the early highs of like, oh, this is exciting, this is awesome, I'm so excited to do this. And then they're sort of settling into their relationship with their site supervisor and the community. Things are starting like kind of norming, and then they're facing those things of, that it's dark for so long each day, that it's 10 degrees below zero, and so people tend to struggle. That's when we find people struggling the most, and that we do a in-person training, a multi-day in-person training in February to get everyone together. We do a in-person thing in December, sort of as it's starting, to let people know, they can connect with us whenever they need to and connect with each other. So those are the times when I think it also makes sense for you all to plan for a little extra love and care through December and January and early February. If you have opportunities for them to participate in like team building or have some scheduled one-on-one time with them to touch base, just make sure that they're doing all right and having their needs met. It's a good time for them to also think about, it's one of the things we do in that time, it's a good time for them to think about where they want to be in 6 months when they're done with the program. Are there skills and opportunities that you might be able to set them up with, so that when they're done, they've got those skills that they need to get to where they want to be. So having some of that, those opportunities in that time frame helps, we feel. And sorry. All right. Who does the timesheet?
Timesheets is my jam.
All right.
So timesheets, I send out a reminder every Friday that timesheets need to be submitted by the end of business. Once a member submits their timesheet, you'll get a notification. You can approve it either that day or Monday, probably, if they're submitting it as they're heading out of the office. If they fail to submit 2 weeks worth of timesheets, 2 consecutive weeks, they get a written warning. Every member is given a maximum of 2 written warnings, and continue delinquency results in additional consequences. We've never really had issues with members on timesheets. We've had to poke and prod here and there, but for the most part, whenever they've been behind and we let them know, they've come through within like 10-15 minutes of us notifying them. But if they're continuously delinquent, then that's mostly a red flag. We're going to think, well, did they cut and run? Something might have gone on that we don't know. Just communication is good as a key here. I guess we could do the next slide. We're going to keep on going a little bit more timesheets. So, when you log into the timesheet website, which is AmeriCorps.goodwillnne.org, this will be what your homepage looks like, and when a member submits their timesheet, you'll get one of these notifications that will say, on this date, submitted by user, would be the name of your VISTA. When you click on view, it will bring you to their timesheet page. But before you get that, you might also see this is the specific page per user. So it'll be the VISTA's name, the total hours they performed, and reported, as well as just a bunch of other statistics.
Yeah, the same thing.
And the same
But
thing.
it was designed, we built this almost 10 years ago for our AmeriCorps program, not our AmeriCorps VISTA program, which is very focused on how many hours in what kind of category. And so that's why this was really essential to have members understand where they stood and whether they were going to get their education order or not. But it's less relevant in the VISTA world. So a bunch of those screens will just say VISTA, and you don't have to worry about this one quite so much.
So when you click on View, you'll come to a page that looks like this, which is where your members will report their hours. There's 3 hour categories: service, training, and fundraising. Fundraising is irrelevant to VISTA. Even if that's a part of their assignment description, they don't need to count fundraising hours independently. So it's just service and training. There's the comments box where if they take any time off, that would be where they type in the date they took off, as well as the absence code, which will be giving them a big list, which is like V for vacation, S for sick days, B for bereavement, if there's a death in the family, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think we have that slide.
Yep. And another thing we also ask for them to record in the comments section is if there's any day where they end up working 10 or more hours, that is another instance where they would have to record it in the comments box, just so we can keep an eye on it and make sure that they're not working themselves to death.
Yeah. Or that they've made some kind of crazy data error.
Or that too. Then there's 3 check boxes underneath the comments section. The first one is certifying that fundraising hours are approved and don't. Yeah, that box needs to be ticked. Underneath that is serving vulnerable populations, which we touched on a little bit earlier. Until their background screenings come through, they'll need to be have some supervision while working with children, elderly, or people with disabilities.
Yep. And it'll even, I think, before their background check gets back. Wait, do we have that screen? I don't think so. There's underneath that, there'll be a place where for any hour, if they check that, then they'll have to check for any hour that they were with a vulnerable population, like they'll have to put the name of the person who was supervising and how many hours they supervised. Okay.
And as soon as their background check comes back and clears, that whole section of the timesheet will go away.
Yeah.
So that's, okay.
And the way this is all designed is that the member goes in and enters all the data, and then you review it and look for any inaccuracies. So we recognize that AmeriCorps has a lot of reporting requirements, and the way we've tried to design and build all our systems is so that the member goes in, records what they've done and the details, and then you all just review it and make sure it's accurate.
So just 2 questions. One, training. So I'm going to be doing a team-wide training all next week that he'll be a part of, just with the whole thing, because I do that. So does that go into his training? Would he be putting that under training?
That sounds like it would go under training.
Okay, so any training that I provide, and if I'm doing that throughout the year?
As long as it's sort of like a group formal training. If it's just you sitting down with him and teaching him about something one-on-one, then that's more sort of giving him the parameters of his job as opposed to providing structured training.
Okay, and then there was another, just because I did this I had someone here only like 6 hours a week with me for the past year, so when I was doing that.
And then word through LLC.
Yeah, and so I had to go in terms of like, if I did any supervision with them, I'll put in like the in-kind hours, so does that?
We don't have to do that.
You don't have to do it.
The way our VISTA grant is structured, they are not concerned about in-kind. Our regular AmeriCorps State National, they're very concerned.
Yeah, and that was, okay, so that's why I was looking for that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, then that means the slide
and you can see that big X up top on the in-kind there.
Right, oh, okay, so none of those, oh, great.
Let's see, I think we'll...
It was fine, but I was definitely like, and I had, it was just a loading code.
So in the instance where if the member does make a mistake and you catch it and they're like, oh, well, we need to make a change, you would then click Send Note to Member near the top. When you click on that, you'll get a pop-up You don't have to fill out anything. You can just click Save Note, and that unsubmits the timesheet and sends it back to the member. They're the only ones who can change their timesheets.
Okay.
So like even in the case if you didn't catch a mistake and approved it, and then me and Elizabeth saw it and like, I actually think this is a mistake, we could unsubmit it. It would go straight back to the member. Because they're the only ones who can make any amendments.
Okay.
And when you're ready to approve the timesheet, you'll click on the tab all the way on the right, submit this info. When you click on that, you'll get this pop-up. It just says, are you sure you want to submit all of this? You'll click OK. It'll bring you to another page asking essentially the same information. Are you absolutely sure? And you'll click yes, final approval.
Very thorough.
And then once you click that, that is what then triggers it to come to me and Elizabeth for our final approval. Oh yeah.
There we go.
And all of that's, yeah, you have the slideshow sheet, so that's a lot of information, and it's not difficult, but it's just a lot of raw data.
It wasn't, for me actually, but more difficult than me trying to navigate the whole, what I
can imagine.
So it was actually, it's helpful to take those 3 tabs out, but in terms of just signing on and then going back and just kind of, we have a good one.
Well, that's sort of what we've got. And thanks for coming.